I didn't realize how quiet a backyard could feel until the one thing keeping my son alive was gone. Not broken, not damaged. Gone. Stolen in broad daylight by the woman who ran our HOA. I was staring at an empty concrete pad, my hands shaking when it hit me that this wasn't just harassment anymore. This was something far worse. I live in a place called Oak Ridge Hills Estates. On paper, it's the kind of neighborhood real estate agents love to brag about: manicured lawns, matching mailboxes, a community pool so blue it almost looks fake. The kind of place where everything is supposed to feel safe, orderly, predictable. That's why we moved there in the first place. My wife and I weren't chasing luxury. We were chasing stability, normalcy, something our son Ethan doesn't get handed by default. Ethan is 8 years old. He's bright, stubborn in the best way, and he laughs like he's constantly in on some joke the rest of us missed. He also has a chronic respiratory condition that means his lungs don't clear themselves the way they should. For him, swimming isn't just fun, it's therapy. It helps him breathe. And the medical equipment in our house? That's not clutter, that's survival. For the first few months, Oak Ridge felt fine. Neighbors waved, kids rode bikes. I thought maybe for once life was going to be uncomplicated. Then I met Linda Whitmore. Linda was the HOA president. Everyone knew her. You could spot her from half a block away. Perfect blonde bob that never moved posture like she was born holding a clipboard, eyes always scanning for something out of place. The first time she approached me, I was in the driveway bolting down a small removable ramp so we could more easily move Ethan's equipment in and out of the house. She didn't say hello. She stopped at the edge of my driveway, looked at the ramp, then at me and said, "I don't recall the architectural committee approving this modification." Not, "What is this for?" Not, "Is everything okay?" Just that. I explained calmly that it was for medical equipment, that my son needed it. I even mentioned federal accessibility protections, thinking that would be the end of it. Linda smiled. Tight, polite, the kind of smile that isn't friendly at all. Then she turned and walked away. That was the moment I should have realized I was on her radar. After that, the violation notices started coming like clockwork. 13 minutes past the allowed time for trash cans fine. Fence trim painted eggshell instead of pearl fine. One notice even said excessive medical equipment visible through windows. That one hit hard. She was talking about Ethan's nebulizer, the machine that helps him breathe. I tried to ignore it at first. I told myself she was just doing her job, that if I kept my head down she'd move on to someone else. But Linda didn't move on. She escalated. The breaking point came when we installed a backup generator. For most people, a power outage is an inconvenience. For us, it's an emergency. If the power goes out and Ethan's equipment goes down, we're on a clock. So I did what any parent would do. I made sure that couldn't happen. Linda was at my door within 24 hours. "Generators are prohibited," she said, flipping through her binder. Section 7.3. Eyesore. Noise pollution. I told her it was quieter than her husband's vintage Mustang. I told her it was a medical necessity. She didn't care. She just looked at me and said, "We'll see about that." We took it to the board. I showed up with documentation, doctor's letters, even had Ethan's pulmonologist join by video call. The board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats as the legal liability became impossible to ignore. In the end, they voted in our favor. The generator stayed. Linda didn't look at me during the vote, but as I walked past her on the way out, she leaned in and whispered, "This isn't over." I laughed it off at the time. I thought it was just a power play, empty intimidation. I was wrong. A month later, we took Ethan to visit his grandparents for the weekend. Sunday evening, we pulled into the driveway, tired but relaxed. I glanced toward the side yard where the generator sat behind a lattice screen. It wasn't there. At first, my brain refused to process it. I walked closer. The concrete pad was bare, bolts exposed, wires cut clean. My stomach dropped. I ran inside, pulled up the security footage. And there she was. Linda. Saturday morning, 7:15 a.m., standing in my yard like she owned it, pointing, giving orders. 2 men in unmarked coveralls followed her directions, disconnected the generator and hauled it away. She looked satisfied, proud even. I didn't think. I just called the police. When the officers arrived and saw the footage, their tone changed immediately. One of them raised his eyebrows and said, "Mrs. Whitmore?" "Yeah, we've had calls about her before." Because the generator was worth over $1,000, this wasn't an HOA issue anymore. It was felony theft. An hour later, a cruiser pulled up in front of Linda's house. I watched from my window as her posture collapsed. The clipboard was gone. The confidence drained out of her face. She went from commander-in-chief to terrified suspect in seconds. She refused to tell them where the generator was. That turned everything. The next day, a detective called me. They'd found the generator in a warehouse owned by her brother-in-law. Linda was being charged with grand larceny, filing a false report, and obstruction of justice. I sat on the couch after that call, staring at the wall, shaking. Not from fear, from exhaustion. From the realization of how close I'd come to letting her win. How many times I'd wondered if I was the problem. If standing up for my kid was somehow too much. A week later, the HOA called an emergency meeting. The room was packed. Neighbors I'd only ever waved at were suddenly standing up, telling stories. Arbitrary fines. Personal vendettas. Years of silence broken all at once. A motion was made to remove Linda permanently. As the votes were counted, Linda stood up in the back row. Her voice cracked as she pointed at me. "This is all your fault," she said. "You and your special needs and your special equipment." The room went dead silent. I didn't say a word. She stormed out, mascara streaking down her face, the door slamming behind her. And just like that, her reign was over. I didn't cheer. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt done. Done being afraid. Done second-guessing myself. Done letting someone with a title decide whose life mattered. The generator went back on its pad. Ethan went back to swimming. And Linda Whitmore. She learned that power ends where the law begins. Sometimes standing your ground isn't about winning, it's about refusing to disappear.